Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients.
Well, I don't know what happened there.
All right. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode 512 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryo Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024, and it looks like it's going to be a very nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey, and with me as usual, which makes me happy, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Not sure what kind of show we're going to have for you today, kids, but before we do anything else, Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today? I know you were under the weather yesterday.
Mental health. It's not been good lately, to be honest with you. It's been really rough, and I had a stomach bug that's still not completely gone. And for those of you who are not aware, your gut health actually affects your mental health in ways you can't even begin to understand. And it can bring you to some very dark places. I was going to do an ASMR Monday evening, but my thoughts were too dark. Far too dark. That should be discussed at times when they are, but when I'm in that place, it's not a good time to talk because I'll say things that'll get me banned from YouTube. Because there's limitations on what you can say when it comes to that. So I'm going to try and do one later today to make up for it and apologize and explain, because I'm in a little bit better headspace today. But yeah, it's been a rough go. I'm not going to lie. The whole job prospects, lack of income. I do, like I said, I have a gig. Yes, but it's commission only. So until I close some deals, there's no money coming in, which is fine. I've got some runway, but it starts to weigh on you after a little bit. And that coupled with, the current political situation on both sides of the border, has its effect. And I just don't know what the future brings. Will I be directly harmed? Not directly. Indirectly, yes. Indirectly, I will, because some of the business that I work in and develop and will be cut back. Government spending. If we get a Polyev government in, I can pretty much kiss it goodbye. How is trade going to be affected with the United States of America? I don't know. You've got a raging lunatic who is about to become the president, who's just appointed Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy as the Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge. So is this a Dogecoin? You've heard of Dogecoin? This is a Dogecoin. And the shitty part of it is that Elon Musk is going to be looking for government efficiencies while he is the CEO of multiple companies that do direct business with the government. Do you not see it? A slight issue here, like Come on, man. There's just so many conflicts of interest, but they don't give a shit. They're going to be transparent about how much they're going to grift you and rob you blind. So
Yeah.
I guess that's good. At least we know we're getting screwed over horribly, but just bizarre.
Yeah, I know. I know. There are so many developments down there, and like they're all so sensational, and they're all, we could be like tongue wagging and wrapping ourselves in knots, and you know, I mean, you've seen all the things, right? I mean, I'm in a similar place, but it's sort of like you hear the story of the President Zelensky gives a call, and Elon Musk happens to be by Trump at the moment that happens, and Trump says, "Hey, Elon, it's like I got Vladimir on the line. He's got that Starlink thing. That's yours, right here. You talk to him."
Yeah.
I guess, and now you got all the memes, First Lady Elon Musk going around. It's like, okay, Elon Musk is the first lady, and then he names this thing, and I didn't even care enough to look after hearing it like this, but it seemed like he named Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, whatever. Both of them, right? And I don't know if they're like co-directors or one's there and one's part of another thing, but it's sort of like I'm in my head. It's like, see, the efficiency. It's like, and I did it efficiently too. I named two of them at one time. I got a big brain. It's like I could just So I mean, there's so much. And I'm trying. I know that when January comes, we will have no choice to be soaking in it like Palmolive, right? Because then he will be the president, and we cannot. And so I'm trying my best. I am hearing what's going on, but I'm trying to keep it like somewhere back there so I can maintain some sanity. Because if you think of the people he's named so far, and it's like, oh my god. And the only thing I came to yesterday is that our only potential saving grace, because this group of people just can't stand each other. So that lady he named, I guess, to be his chief of staff, I think it is. It's like, there is no effing way she's letting Marjorie 3 names near anything power, anything near the president at all. What do you think's going to happen when all the goodies are handed out? Someone left the Marge out in the rain. Do you think that's going to go down well?
No.
They also have to pick a speaker with a very slim majority in the House if they get it. That's still not decided. The Republicans are 2 seats away, and I'm like following the trackers, and a lot of the ones that are there are close enough that if late vote swings, they could mathematically. It is still possible that the House could very minorly flip, but even if it doesn't, I mean, even if it goes the Republicans' way, that minority is going to be so thin. I mean, we saw how effective they were last time around with their very slim majority. I mean, they hate each other. I mean, the sniping has already started. So it's like my only hope is that they spend more time hating each other than the people they campaigned on hating for all those people who voted for them, and can't get really much done. Except the executive order stuff, because they can't agree. They can't get anything past the House because they can't agree amongst themselves.
A show we did last week, my title was Democracy, something to the effect of Democracy is Dead. I can't remember exactly what it was. But I had a friend reach out to me, and she goes, how could you say democracy is dead? The democratic process worked. They voted. I hate who they voted for, and I agree that Trump is all those things you say he is, but how could you say the process is dead? I'm like, you've missed my point entirely. It's dead now because they've killed it. Because Trump has said, you'll never have to vote again. He has assumed power, and he is not going to give it up.
I said it the first time he got elected. Once you elected Putin, would be good luck getting rid of him. The first time you tried to get rid of him, there was an insurrection.
Well, now he's got
I think he's going to go quietly into the good night.
He's got the powers of a king now.
Yeah, the only way this guy goes quietly into the good night is if Putin gets tired of him and he falls out a window.
That's it. Yes, that is it. Well,
it's like, you're not getting rid of this guy.
And in case you haven't seen this video of Donald J. Trump, President-elect of the United States of America, he is going to take revenge on everybody like he said he would, and he's not joking. Watch this 57-second clip of him talking about DEI and how he's going to make reparations for white people.
Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have...
So it starts out, racial discrimination, okay, yeah. And then immediately...
their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all. We are going to have real education in America.
Okay, one, he didn't write that.
No, he didn't write that.
Especially if you look at Project 2025, that's probably in there.
Yeah. So what he's going to do, folks, is if you are a person of color, you're basically hooped, because he is going to take advantage of his monarchy to stomp you further into the ground. And he just admitted it. People, that's not what he said. That's exactly what he said. It's coded language. It's coded language to say he's going to hurt people who don't look like me.
He literally said that programs and stuff of the like to create more equity on anything that have anything to do with race, but it's going to have to do with anything else as well. Right? Ability, gender, the whole thing. All of that, he just said, is un-American.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a Nazi. He's a fascist dictator. I don't care. Get mad at me for saying it. I don't give a shit. I'm telling you what he is.
So,
and it's not going to get better. He hasn't even assumed office yet.
No. And
there's Pete Hegseth is going to be the Secretary of Defense. Fox and Friends weekend host is an Army veteran. So, okay, he's got some experience on the job. But it's kind of weird that he went straight to Fox News to hire somebody to think, no, that's not weird. That's to be expected from Trump. It's to be expected from him.
Everything is central casting for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I mean. All that stuff kind of goes on and on and on. And, not that... Let me put it this way. Not that I think it may ultimately matter, I guess. But, if you're looking for a little bit of solace, there were a couple of good things that came out of the election in certain places. If one needs something to look at to try and grab some hope and some inspiration in certain spots.
Well, listen to this from Foxy Dragon. I don't mean to cut you off, but this is from Foxy Dragon, and it's a comment on one of our episodes, and the commentary from her is pretty brilliant. She says, regarding conspiracies, I'm having a hard time swallowing the fact that in places that Trump won, people voted for abortion rights. I find it extremely strange that people would vote for abortion rights while at the same time voted for the guy who wants to end abortion rights.
Yep.
Not to mention that many places Trump won, battleground states, people voted for Democrats down ballot. Hard to believe people would vote differently for president and representative senators in local offices. But on the flip side of that is that humans don't normally like change or the unknown. We have never had a woman president, so that would be very much a change. Trump literally ran on a single thought, make America great again. And he didn't need to explain what or how he will do it. He just needed to say he did it once, and he can do it again. People have a mindset of, well, we've survived the time and things seem better than they are now, so we might as well put him in office. Can't argue with you. I mean, it's, I just don't know, man. It's a bizarre, bizarre time.
Yeah, but she's right, because like everybody was saying, voters split their ticket. It seems that nobody thought of or factored in the possibility that women, particularly in red states, would go to the ballot box and vote in favor of their reproductive rights and still go, but when it comes to the kitchen table, I still want Trump.
This is the part that doesn't make any sense to me, right?
But see, at first it's counterinstinctual, but I can see someone. Okay, let's say you are racist and you want all those immigrants deported, and you don't like all of that talk about all that rainbow stuff. But it's like, you live in the South. You've seen what happened to young girls. You don't want that. Hell no, you ain't doing that. But hell no, I ain't voting for Kamala either. That can just as like the story of, women, you can go to the voting booth and tell your husband you voted for Trump, and no, that exists. The other one exists too. They can split it. And it seems that more white women in red states did split it than people expected. Nobody accounted for that. That's what happened. They voted for the reproductive freedom, but voted for the guy that's gonna take it away anyway. We'll try to find another way.
Well, this is an interesting comment from Bishop Talbert Swan, who I don't know. He's a pastor, I guess, activist, author, radio host, chaplain, NAACP president. He says, when black people talk about reparations for 400 years of slavery, rape, murder, brutalization, and dehumanization, we're told to get over it. Yet Trump is talking about giving white folks reparations for DEI policies designed to counter centuries of their racism. Make it make sense.
So if you're looking for some good stuff, as votes are being counted, because votes are still being counted.
Yes, they're still being counted.
Yes. The popular vote has really narrowed, because I believe on election night there was something like a 5 million or 6 million spread or whatnot.
Correct.
And now it's just a little bit over 3. So this,
I think there was still 17 million as of Tuesday, 17 million votes that needed to be counted. Yeah.
So Trump has 52.2% of the popular vote, and Harris 48.1. So it's not like a 4 or 5 point blowout.
No.
That type of stuff. It also turns down that if you're looking, Trump did win all 7 swing states. But if you are looking at the ones that were decisive, apparently some people are saying it's about 110,000 votes total in 3 states. That made the difference. That part I haven't been able to independently verify. I haven't looked at the numbers that closely, so that's just what I heard. Take that for what that's worth. Right. The House is not yet fully decided. It's close. Said the Republicans, I believe, need only 2 more seats to win. 2 more seats. Yeah, 2 more seats to get to 218, which is the majority right now. Right now, if you look at the seats that are there, that are outstanding, they lead in all of them, except 1. But all the margins are close enough, and there is enough outstanding vote. And depending, again, which neighborhoods and which districts and stuff like that in the state that they're coming from, it could be enough. So, there could be some late swings, but all of them are going to be pretty darn close. So that's one little bit of good news. Another bit of good news is that voters in Washington state, for example, rejected Initiative 2117 to repeal the state's Climate Act, and overwhelmingly by 62%. The initiative was funded by a couple of billionaires who just didn't want rules.
Of course not. So the irony in all of this is, Trump is super pro-oil and wants to slash government regulations because it makes it difficult to turn a profit when you're, trying to protect the environment. And he doesn't believe in climate change, but the guy in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency very much requires his business.
I know
like
that.
Solar City.
That's what I'm
electric
saying.
cars.
The
It's all
seeds of
about climate change. So it's a real irony here.
the seeds of discontent, future discontent, are already sown,
Oh yeah,
right?
because as much of an arsehole as Elon Musk is, and he is an arsehole, I used to think he was a good guy, and then I realized he just had really good publicity. His publicists kept him under tight wraps, and then I'm reading stories about how they kept him out of meetings. They'd basically muzzle him. Well, now he's unmuzzled and unfettered and says whatever comes into his head, and oftentimes it's like an insane rant and rave that comes out of his mouth. But he does firmly know that climate change is real. That's why he's gone to, his solar city, which is the solar roof tiles that he uses
Mhm.
and the power wall and the larger battery production, capacitor production, so that we can store the energy that we create.
Mhm.
And solar power is now taking over from other forms. It
Mhm.
will be the largest source of power throughout Europe and at some point North America. When, I don't know, but probably sooner than we think, because when people see how efficient it is and how cheap it is and how it can actually help us all, you'll get some people get on the bandwagon with that. And I do know of some very, very, very rich and powerful companies in this country who are full steam ahead on green tech
Mhm.
and green renewable energy. I can't tell you about it, but I'm privy to information.
Mhm.
And they're not joking around. And these are some of the most powerful people in this country who are they've read the data. They know climate change is real. They're not denying it, and they're going full in on green.
Oh yeah, but they
Not
have to.
greenwashing, but green power sources.
Yeah, they have to, because I mean, if the United States does like Alberta did and surrenders the entire green space to China, because China is not holding back, 10, 15 years from now, they're setting the rules.
Hmm. Well, and consider this: Google, Facebook, and there was one other company, I can't remember who, it might have been NVIDIA, are looking at building their own nuclear power generating stations
Yes,
so they
for
can
all the
provide
AI.
their data centers with enough power to run AI.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, as much as Trump wants to do this, right now there's COP29 going on in Azerbaijan. People are
Hmm.
saying Trump's going to want to pull out. And he says he has to pull out, and then they have to, within 1 year, you have to announce it 1 year, and then 1 year later it happens. And he did it before, right? And so, most likely he's going to do it again. But there are so many other companies around the world that are all in on this. They see where it's going. They still want to be able to sell their products. Um, you know, for some of these things, it's going to allow those who pollute to do things, but it's not going to deter those who have bought in on the green side and see we're skating to where the puck is going, for lack of a better expression, on this one, to keep going there. It's the same thing. It's not, none of these factories are going to go back to coal. They've already paid all the money to transition to other things, right? Like this, you can make all the rules for coal that you want. It's like those companies are not going to. Oh well, gee, since we don't have to do it anymore, let's just like spend millions or billions of dollars retrofitting so we can go back to coal. Said no company ever, right? So there is going to be some resistance, and the United States is such that, from what I've been hearing, and I'm not an expert on this, but there's something called the 10th Amendment or something in the United States that makes it such that that which is the domain of the states really is the domain of the states. So you've got a certain number of states that have Democrat governors that are getting together that are doing stuff legislatively now to try and strengthen their own constitutions to say, yeah, federal government, you can scream and cry and pass all the executive orders you want on this, but no, this is our thing. So, shoot. So there is going to be a lot of internal strife, and given that there's a certain person that doesn't like being told no, I'm sure there will be plenty of opportunities for him to be distracted if in every single state that is not Republican, and even in every state that has some moderate Republicans or who might be okay with you doing this to this group of people, but hey, you're not doing this to the orange industry in my state. Screw you. There's going to be many opportunities for people to say no to the man for whom there is only one star in his sky. And the other thing, when you're talking about Elon and Vivek and all of them who like really love the camera and screen time, if any of them start out shining, then they got to go. So, like I said, the seeds of the discontent are pre-sown.
Oh, yes.
Like this. So it's just like, and these people are worst winners. They are not happy that they've won. Because one of the main reasons they're not happy that they've won is that everybody, it seems, I don't know if the word got out through the grapevine, but it was like don't do the, oh my God, we're so doomed and everything's like this, and don't capitulate in advance. Don't. They're not getting the liberal tears they've been seeking from the victory. So I think they might be a little stunned as well. Now that doesn't mean that they won't be a whole big bag of dicks once they finally do get their hands on power. So but right now things are not. They are a little confused that they're not getting the, oh my God, the world's about to end reaction.
This comment here from Mr. Jim: the U.S. military is transitioning to sustainable aviation fuel. And did you know, that leads directly into this comment, the next comment. Air Canada is going to fuel up with sustainable aviation fuel. They've purchased 77.6 million liters. That's 20.5 million U.S. gallons of sustainable aviation fuel. The purchase represents Air Canada's first commercial import of SAF into Canada. So sustainable aviation fuel made from waste materials like fats, grease, food, and yard waste or wood chips. It's a growing movement in North America and Europe, used on 360,000 flights so far. That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
Pretty awesome at the same time. So you've got this old school, orange-skinned, weird-haired, raging lunatic who is all about oil, drill, baby, drill. Yet the head of his Department of Government Efficiency is the exact opposite of that. And now the U.S. military, who wants to go green and is purchasing sustainable aviation fuel. And now big companies like Air Canada are doing it, and most airlines in Europe are doing it. Like you can see the collisions happening in real time, right?
But here's the thing, right? All of this stuff comes down to, okay, I wanted to finish something. Remind me to come back to the good things about the few good things in the U.S. election, because I only got through two of them. But here's the thing with what's going on here. I'm going to get there through a weird way, but stick with me here. There's an article that came out in the Globe and Mail yesterday called, and I think we talked a bit on the show as well, because one of the fears about the U.S. election is that he starts instituting his policy of deportations, and then a lot of people come up towards Canada. Now, we do, unlike last time, we do have a safe third country agreement, where if we do enforce it, and there's the big word here, if we do enforce it, or if we are able to enforce it, depending on how many come, if we are just so completely overwhelmed, because that could happen. There is about 7 or 8 times the population of Canada in the United States right now, and how many of them will be affected, we don't know. It's not like they take a head count, but we know it's a lot. It's in the
Well,
millions.
and I was speaking with some people who work in particular departments within the federal government, and they told me point blank, we are gearing up to see an onslaught of migrants trying to cross the northern border into Canada, because the migrants that are in the U.S. will not be going back to Mexico. They've already paid the cartel once to get into the country. So they will scream that they are refugees, that their lives are in danger, and we'll actually have to look at it and go, well, yeah, you're not wrong. Then you'll have American-born, and this is actually a real area of concern, American-born citizens who are a rainbow community, who are black and brown and trans, and who will literally want to cross the border claiming refugee status because they fear for their life. And I'm like, well, we're going to have to seriously look at that because their lives could very much be in jeopardy.
Yeah, but then if we seriously look at that and then we do let them in, then what happens to us economically?
I know this is the thing. What is the choice here? I don't know. It's not a position.
Because you know they'll retaliate because we're not being helpful if we let them in, right?
So it's like what I don't know. I don't know what happens in that situation. I don't know. It's like all these people will show up and claim refugee status and migrants. Okay, well, that means we have to have a hearing. That means we have to put them into the system and have a hearing if they claim refugee status. So do we put a temporary hold on refugee status for the next 4 years while Trump is president? Oh, wait, no, not 4 years. Right, yeah, like he's leaving.
I'm saying is like there is so much mess coming that we can't even imagine all the possibilities. But there's so much mess coming. Whoever is going to be leading this nation, even if it's Paliev, even if he like rolls over for scritches or whatnot, there are certain things Canadians will not accept him doing. Like he is going to have a terrible prime minister. Anybody who is leading this nation right now, because I do not want your job.
No.
Your job. There is nothing but drama and chaos and essentially managing a mercurial and highly random and inconsistent toddler. And this coterie of coattail riders who are even more ill-intentioned. Because right? So but unfortunately don't have his charisma. So right, I mean, he's just a tool. They're using him because I think they really do believe that none of them could do it without him. He's the shield. And then they just run behind him. But this Globe and Mail article here, immigration top of mind in Quebec amid concerns over U.S. deportations. And this is from Eric Andrew G. from the Globe and Mail. When Donald Trump was elected U.S. president last week, François Legault had one issue at the forefront of his mind: immigration. Quebec's premier spoke to reporters on Wednesday and warned of a, quote, massive influx of migrants fleeing Mr. Trump's promised deportation plan. It was a familiar theme for Mr. Legault, who has been aggressively cutting immigration targets in recent weeks, as he warns the province has taken more newcomers than it can handle. The U-turn mirrors the federal government's, but with Quebec characteristics. The province has a parallel immigration system that chooses its own economic migrants, unique concerns about language, and a long-running debate about the place of religion in society, which has flared up lately. That has produced a heated conversation about reducing immigration in Quebec that is similar to the one taking place across Canada, but in different key ways. Although Quebecers have joined the rest of the country in worrying more about the number of newcomers, their concern has mounted more slowly and now sits at the lowest level of any Canadian region, a September study by Environics Research found. While 63% of Ontario residents feel there is too much immigration to Canada and 68% in the prairies do, only 46% of Quebec respondents agree. Even so, Mr. Legault has promised to reduce immigration since coming to power in 2018, presenting it as, quote, something that could be threatening for language, but also for social services, said Mireille Paquette, an associate professor of political science at Concordia University in Montreal. Quote, using immigration as a scapegoat for several problems in the province. The premier notably said in 2022 that it would be suicidal for Quebec to welcome more than 50,000 permanent residents a year because of their potential impact on the place of French. Still, his government has failed to stop the rise in immigration, with 67,000 new permanent residents expected next year, and the number of temporary residents in Quebec having almost doubled to about 600,000 between 2021 and 2024. That is largely the product of demand from employers for foreign workers. And if employers are asking the provincial MPs, the provincial premiers for that, so they bring that request to the federal government. And the federal government says, we'd like to be helpful to our provinces. So yes. And then so the provinces get what they ask for. But it comes with costs. And then they complain about the costs, and then they say it's the federal government's fault. Even though they asked for it. Yeah. But I guess they asked only for the good parts of it, and not the unintended consequences, or any responsibility for them either. That's the way it works in Canada. All right. Because the federal government controls refugee and family reunification arrivals, the Legault government often blamed Ottawa for runaway immigration numbers. But the Trudeau government's announcement of major cuts to its targets took that argument off the table, said Jack Jitwab, president and CEO of the Montreal-based Association for Canadian Studies. It took the thunder away from Legault. And this is what I'm saying, again, when I say the Prime Minister plays the long game. Okay, I see this is going to be happening about a year and a half from now. Trump wins, this happens, whatnot, all these people. So I'm going to make these cuts, and I'm going to make them big enough that people start talking about it. Because those cuts, which again, are the cuts that the premiers are now asking for. I can't build the housing fast enough. Well, okay. Then let's cut permits for foreign students. But we've been underfunding our colleges and universities. Okay, then how about let's cut the low-wage temporary foreign worker program? But the economy will fall apart. If we actually had to pay people what they were worth, we wouldn't be able to provide the service. We'd have to raise prices. If we raise prices, well, then that makes me look bad, and then I can't get reelected. Okay, so what do you want me to do to help you? Help me help you. I can actually literally see the Prime Minister doing that Jerry Maguire moment. Doug, help me help you. Danielle, what? It's like the whole world's going this way. I'm putting in the carbon tax. I'm putting in the emissions caps. I'm doing all the things, all the signals that all the international markets want to see so that you can keep on selling your damn oil. I even built you a freaking pipeline, girl. It's like, yeah. What do you want? I even sent you money to clean up the abandoned oil wells. And you didn't do what? What do you want? Just tell me. It's like I could see him. I could see that scenario if somebody was writing a movie. Like, calls her into the office, and they have this conversation that never gets out and goes anywhere like this. But that's really what happened. It's like, you guys are exhausting.
Oh yes.
Jeez. So, his coalition Avenir Québec, a nationalist party that does not seek independence from Canada, had already started restricting migration flows, suspending some low-wage temporary work admissions from Montreal, and introducing legislation to limit the number of foreign students in Quebec. Soon after the federal government announced it was cutting its immigration target by more than 20%, Mr. Legault also froze two popular permanent residency programs in the province. The cutbacks are happening at a time of concerns about housing costs and strained public services, like in the rest of Canada, but also a political battle between the government and the Souverainiste Parti Québécois, which has called for even sharper reductions. The PQ currently leads in the polls and competes for the same basket of nationalist voters as the CAQ. And this is a really typical thing that Mr. Legault did. So by the federal government cutting, and then Legault cutting immediately after, and Legault probably running around the province taking credit for his cuts that were only made possible by the fact that the federal government actually went first. Sort of like, when the federal government cuts 2% off the GST, and then the provincial government says, hey, because look at all this tax revenue we have now. If we augment the PST by 2%, You see no change. The prices don't get up, but we have all this money. And let's say with this money, I don't know. I gave you a tax cut. Look at me, ain't I wonderful for giving you a tax cut that was only made possible by the federal government giving away 2 tax points. Jean Charest did that in Quebec when Stephen Harper sent Quebec some money to resolve the fiscal imbalance. And then Jean Charest had an election coming up, and he offered everyone a big tax cut instead of reinvesting all that money from the fiscal imbalance into the programs that were in imbalance because of the fiscal imbalance. That didn't work out well for him, by the way. So, yeah, this is it's a thing that if you know how the game is played, like this, they'll take the credit, but they're not the one. It wasn't a bold, decisive leadership move on their part. Somebody else went for it, and then they rode the coattails. Meanwhile, a pair of controversies has highlighted tensions in the province around the place of Muslim immigrants in Quebec society. The October release of a report into a quote, clan of teachers with North African origins who imposed their conservative teaching philosophy on a Montreal public school over several years has sparked outrage, and definitely feeds into the whole narrative that fueled all those laws, because that's the exact case that was being made as they were bringing them in. So it turns out that it has happened once, and that will be the one example that will be pointed to forever, in perpetuity, ad infinitum, ad infernam, as the expression goes. Although the report makes little mention of religion, the failure to adequately teach science or sexual health at the Bedford School in the multicultural neighborhood of Côte-des-Neiges prompted PQ leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon to decry, quote, Islamic infiltration of the education system. Mr. Plamondon also attacked a welcome poster in Montreal City Hall that featured the image of a woman wearing a hijab, prompting Mayor Valérie Plante to have the poster removed in the name of secularism. The Legault government's Bill 21 bars certain public servants, including teachers, from wearing visible religious symbols. And I guess I would take that one so far that, well, since there will be no woman in a hijab presenting you with any service, then there's no need to put one on a poster either. Because I'm guessing the person on the poster was an image of someone that was supposed to be a public servant, and since you will never see one with a hijab. But they're thinking about it all the way to that point. That's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Migrant rights and private sector groups have harshly criticized Mr. Legault's recent shift on immigration. Denis Hamel, strategic advisor to the Conseil du Patronat du Québec, a lobby group representing employers, called the cutbacks a, quote, catastrophe, and said he sensed, quote, panic about businesses concerned with staffing shortfalls. Ordinary people will feel the pinch too, he said, as sectors heavily dependent on immigrant workers, such as healthcare, childcare, face a reduced pool of recruits. Adding to the incoherence of the government's immigration policy, Mr. Hamel argued, is the decline of the French language instruction for newcomers. In September, the Legault government cut francisation subsidies for part-time students, while budget cuts have closed dozens of French classes for immigrants across the province. And as I mentioned yesterday, that's another way to make sure that you don't have people stay, because they passed that law that said that new arrivals to Quebec that didn't speak French had to learn to speak a certain amount of French within the space of 1 year, after which they could not interact with the Quebec government in a language other than French. But they're cutting programs that allow them to learn the French. So, oh, sorry, you haven't learned French. Oh, you couldn't get into it. Oh, too bad, so sad, but you got to go.
Mm-hmm.
How convenient. It seems we have a government that wants to act but doesn't quite know why or how, said Monsieur Hamel. So, to me, if the Liberals want to have any hope of winning the next election, they have to pivot hard. And they have to do things differently than what they've been doing, because that has not been working for them so far. This is an issue on which the Prime Minister can make up a lot of ground, both in Quebec and with a vote that might be moving or currently opting for the couch. But it would involve strenuously enforcing the provisions of the Safe Third Party Agreement, and that would certainly raise some hackles from the NDP and possibly the Greens. If the Liberals right now, with the promise of some money, struck up a response group involving a representative from all the parties sitting in the Assemblée Nationale, as well as from people knowing what would be required to provide services with such an influx in order to pre-plan, it could score some points for the federal government. And if it works, it is a model and then could be easily and quickly replicated for any province or territory that is feeling the need to have a similar response ready. And it would send a very solid sign to Canadians who think that the federal government is more concerned with that which is aspirational than the kitchen table, that it can pivot. That, coupled with a more plain talk approach in which the Prime Minister and his team just get to the point when they speak to us, stop speaking like politicians and just speak like normal people, it could open a door. That is, if Canadians are still willing to tune him in, at least for the duration of the election. If not, nothing can save the ship. It's gone. But assuming that the Canadian public is, because politics must run on optics, that door is open, the Liberals would need a message that speaks specifically to young men under 45, single Canadians starting out in life, and rural Canadians, as well as disillusioned new Canadians who've arrived over the past decade. And it needs to be delivered with a message discipline that makes, and I hate to say this, everything else. No exceptions. Not even genocide, not even suppression of transgender rights, not even Skippy not getting his security clearance. Everything secondary to the price of eggs. Because what's going on here is that when people are not feeling the good economic news, the macroeconomic news is prices went up fast. Even though wages are now increasing faster than inflation and things are catching up, they haven't caught up yet. But all of us, when we go to the grocery store, we're still old enough to remember the price of eggs 2 years ago. And inflation coming down doesn't mean that the price of eggs goes down. It means that it doesn't go up.
Do you have a cricket in your studio? I hear a cricket.
A cricket?
I hear a cricket. Do you have a cricket in your studio? I hear a cricket constantly.
Nope, not at all.
Maybe I'm having a fit. I don't
know. So the fact that you still remember what the price of eggs are, it was 2 years ago, and you go now and you say, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's still." You still can't believe it's this high, even if your salary. It's price point politics. That's literally the game now, and Skippy's playing it very, very well. Liberals were to be bold enough to do this. There's no strong evidence, but there is a little bit. There are a lot of constituencies across the nation that would see their issues be placed on the back burner this time around. The disability community, Indigenous Canadians. And the question is, would they allow that to happen? Would the Liberals be given that margin? Are shoring up some conservative on feeds, right? When we had the rail workers lockouts, both of them simultaneous at the same time, they didn't invoke back to work legislation. They ordered the Industrial Relations Board of Canada to go them back to work and send them in binding arbitration. Well, they just did that with the port workers now. That's twice in 3 months.
Well,
and the Canada Post workers are about to go on strike, so now they're worried about that too. But that sends a message to conservatives.
Article in the Globe and Mail written by Keith Creel about how we should put a stop to these work disruptions, except the funny thing is Keith Creel is the CEO of CPKC. Do you not see a conflict there?
Yep.
He made $3 million more last year than Austin Matthews, by the way, to give you an idea of the kind of money that guy's earning.
Yeah.
So maybe pay your employees better. Why don't you take a bit of a pay cut? Because I think you have more than enough, you greedy asshole.
Yep.
Just
so
I have something for you here that plays into what you're talking about.
Okay.
It plays into what you're talking about, and I haven't had a chance to get a word in for a bit. So here, I want to show you this video for those of you who have not seen this. And you will understand why we need to keep things status quo in this country, because this guy explains it.
We are back with our nightcap, and you guessed it, it is time for our MVPs of the week. Who had the biggest week? Doesn't have to be the best. Peter, to you first.
I'm going to go with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who this week had the temerity to call out Narendra Modi for what appears to be the assassination of a Sikh nationalist, a Canadian citizen in British Columbia. And I want to single him out for one really big reason. Remember, Modi came to Washington and was feted. And you talked earlier about democracy.
They had a state dinner for him.
State dinner for a man who has led a government that is undermining Indian democracy, persecuting Muslims in India. And we've seen the Biden administration come in on the Saudis, on the Russians, on the Ukrainians, and on the Chinese. We've seen him come into office talking about democracy and human rights and slowly backing away from it. Trudeau has not. Trudeau was very early when he first came into office, one of the toughest on the Russians for the 2014 invasion of Ukraine. He's been tough on the Saudis, he's been tough on the Chinese, and now he's been tough on the Indians. I think he's a bit of a model for the West to look to when you talk about liberal democracy.
I think he's a model either way.
So stay the course is what I'm trying to say. If we put Pierre Poilievre in, he's just going to bend over backwards for Putin and for Trump. Roll over for belly scritches from Trump, who's getting his commanding orders from Putin. And you know he's already in bed with Modi. It's no secret. They had Indian nationals, foreign nationals, that bought enough memberships in the Conservative Party to make sure that Patrick Brown would never be the leader. So it's all playing into, if we vote in Poilievre in the next election and vote out the Liberal government, we're as done as the United States of America is. We'll be finished. We'll be finished. Because you like or love or hate Trudeau, I don't care what your personal thoughts about the man are. He's doing good by the country. Do I have faults with the Liberal government? Oh yeah, of course I do. There's many things that I think they've done a terrible job of. They still haven't brought forth the legislation to improve those on disability payments. They've been dragging their heels on that one for a long time. Meanwhile, people are dying left, right, and center as a result of the fact that they don't have enough money to survive on. So yeah, I got a problem with that. No government is ever going to be perfect. No government is ever going to be able for me to see eye to eye to on absolutely everything. But if we vote him out and vote Poilievre in, we're finished. We're done. You can say goodbye to democracy in this country. And Poilievre has as much said it, that he would use the notwithstanding clause whenever he wants to get what he wants to get his way.
All right. There we go. Sorry, I forgot what I was saying. I'll go back. To other things that happened in the U.S. election that are positive. The Supreme Court in the state of Kentucky flipped to a more liberal stance by voting in another justice who was more liberally minded, and Governor Andy Beshear, who has been was reelected convincingly as the state's only statewide elected Democrat official, and he's the governor. The supermajority in North Carolina has been broken, preventing the GOP from passing veto-proof legislation. The Supreme Court in Michigan solidified its majority on the liberal side of the spectrum, going from a 4-3 to a 5-2 majority. There were measures pertaining to reproductive rights that succeeded in 7 of the 10 states in which they were proposed. And Congress will have its first ever representative from the transgender community, who's named Sarah McBride, who served 2 terms as a state senator and won Delaware's only House seat. So that's something that might make President Biden quite happy because she's from his state, and he might be able to say that things that he's done laid a little bit of the groundwork to allow that to happen. So, a couple of things. Like I said, it's not all darkness in the United States, but it
ain't too bright.
It's at least we're going to see what resistance really looks like and whether or not how much that will actually be tolerated. Buckle up, kids and cubs. All right, Mr. Grizzly, do we have a
I just wanted to make mention of, did you see in Alberta how, the entire board of AIMCO has been shit canned, right? Because they're losing billions, and that's who Danielle Smith wants to put in charge of the Alberta pension plan. You know who she wants to hand the reins over to? She wants to hand the position of CEO to AIMCO over to former Prime Minister Stephen Harper.
Oh, of course.
I can't make this up. The guy's already making tons of money off of the province of Saskatchewan. Said he didn't believe in CERB. He took what, millions of dollars worth for his company?
Mm-hmm. Yes. He's on the payroll of the government of
and
Saskatchewan as well.
Yeah. I mean, it just, the
He's
level
the chair of the IDU.
And they're not even hiding it anymore. They've become so emboldened that they're putting it right in our face, how they're ripping us off. The nepotism, the quid pro quo, it's just, I know it's always been there, and to say otherwise would say I'm naive and don't know anything about how the world works. I know it has always been there. It will always be there. But now it is on a transparency level that is just shocking to me. They're not trying to hide it. And when they lie, their lies are so bad. It's like the little girl who had lipstick all over her face. No, it's my lipstick. I got it from Home Depot. When we know that's not true. I just can't anymore. I can't anymore. We can wrap it up, sir. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I've got one more thing actually. You made me think of something. I'm gonna have to send it to you by email.
Okay.
There a link to something that somebody we both appreciate, Mr. Sean Fraser, put out yesterday.
Okay. Oh yes.
When I said that Canada needs to start speaking to rural Canadians and to pivot to kitchen table. Because this is an example. So maybe they are aware.
I think they are. They've just been dragging their heels for so long. But it's time to get up and start fighting back and getting in your face and fighting fire with fire. And this is what they're doing.
Take a look around. This does not seem like a big downtown urban environment to me, but it's always been treated like one for the purpose of the Student Loan Forgiveness Program, which is meant to help small towns and rural communities access the healthcare professionals that they need.
Community members have worked to keep up staffing for the emergency department, one of 3 family doctors covering off most shifts.
You see, ever since places like Sheet Harbour, Musquodoboit Harbour, and Middle Musquodoboit were brought into the Halifax Regional Municipality, they ceased to qualify for a lot of programs that were designed for rural Canada. Now we're changing the definition of rural for the purpose of this program to make sure that these 3 communities and all communities with less than 30,000 people have access to this important student loan forgiveness program. What that means for people on the ground is that nurses and nurse practitioners who actually come to work in these communities are going to benefit from student loan forgiveness of up to $30,000. For doctors who tend to have bigger student loans when they graduate, this means up to $60,000 in student loans will be forgiven. When we forgive the student loans for doctors and nurses who work in small towns and rural communities, we're going to make sure places like Sheet Harbour, Musquodoboit Harbour, and Middle Musquodoboit have access to the healthcare professionals that they need.
So this is a good program. I like it. And I think it should be expanded for other professionals across the board so that we can eventually do away with student loans altogether and just simply fund post-secondary education, period. for anybody who qualifies.
Yeah.
You can't just say, I'm going to university. You need to apply and get accepted and qualify and have the right marks and et cetera, to get into the program. But I think it should be state funded right across the board because, believe it or not, that is investing in the future of the country. It's investing in people who will be taking care of us in the future. It's investing in people who do not need to be saddled with huge amounts of debt when they're just starting their lives. It is the right thing to do, and it's the correct direction to move in. And I think the program should be expanded to eventually just say, you know what? We're just going to fund it. Federally, we're going to fund post-secondary education like many other countries with larger populations than ours do and have done for very long times.
Mm-hmm.
It's long overdue.
Yep. All right, Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
All right, Kits and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we loved making this for you. I am not quite sure, Kits and Cubs, what's been happening with me light-wise that I've gone dark all of a sudden because I'm in a room and I have constant light. So but there you go. Remember, sharing is caring. Word of mouth is priceless, and you have the mouths from which we want the words to be coming. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Thank you very much. We appreciate it when you do. Now, if you would like to not miss an episode, you do not have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, who sponsors our pod page. Podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. That is where you go to, Kits and Cubs, to click subscribe. And when you click there, well, hey, you know what? We come straight to you, just like that. Don't even have to go looking for us. So please click on that. And that's the best way to make sure that you get some beaver every day. All right. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Lane and surf yourself on down to True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where our buttons like, share, and subscribe are waiting for you to click on them. Have a good time. Go crazy. Get happy. Click on our buttons. We love it when you do it. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, and that would be financially, for example, because there are costs associated with bringing the show to you. But if you would like to help us that way, then we have a tip jar for you, and you can find it at our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you go there, or if you happen to scan that QR code that's up by Mr. Grizzly's head, there you will find our tip jar. And if you could leave us a little bit of something there, we would be very, very, very grateful. And so very much for doing it. Oh, look, let her be late. It's back again. There we go. So please do leave us a little something if you can, because it is very helpful. And, well, you know, it helps. Every bit helps. Now, if you're not able to leave anything, then please, please do not worry about it whatsoever, because the gift of your participation and attention is the one that is most important to us. There are a lot of those in streaming stuff and only a certain amount of hours in a day. So if you're choosing to give them to us, we are very grateful, and we want to be very respectful of that. So that's why we try to produce the best show that we can for you. So thank you so very much, and we want to hear from you. So write to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. That's our email address. Or you can write us at True Eager, which is our Facebook. Our Twitter address, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook. If you're listening on YouTube, you can write down in the comment section, leave us a little something. Mr. Grizzly, I don't know if you saw you had another email come in, because there's a phenomenon going on in on Twitter that's called exit.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of people.
Did you set up a? Oh, you have a blue sky. You just set up.
Yes,
I'm just following you back now. Excellent. I don't know how.
So,
here's the only thing is we can't live stream on Blue Sky. So what I do is I literally go onto mine and I put a direct link to the live show and say live streaming now. It doesn't. We don't have the ability to link it to restream yet.
Yeah.
That may change in the near future. Apparently, since the election, Blue Sky has picked up over 1 million new subscribers, or 1 million
Yes.
new users.
Eh,
And have you
I'd like
lost
to think,
anybody on Twitter?
uh,
I've lost about 200 subs, so I assume
yeah.
they were bots. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of bots that are not needed now that the election's gone, but there's just if you bring up the page, if you're able to, Mr. Grizzly, from our Blue Sky. So if you are having to go to Blue Sky, it's the same thing as our Twitter feed. It's still also at trueeager.bsky.social, and you will see that the top post there.
From Seth Abramson?
Not sure. From me, Abramson. And this is something that you might want to look at when we're talking about exit, XIT.
Mm-hmm.
Screen yet?
Yeah, it was there.
On my screen. I'm. Hold on, I'll just see here.
I just took it down, but I'll put it back up.
Put it up again, Mr. Gibson? All right, let's see if it's appearing. There it is.
Twitter may merge with.
Okay. Yes, exactly. So if you see there, it says good news, Twitter is collapsing, and this chart doesn't even show the last 2 weeks, which have been the largest exodus in the site history. There are reports from Newsweek and others that Twitter may merge through social, so Twitter may happen almost overnight. And this graph shows data for the US and the UK, and somewhere before that's the 100% baseline where they started. And since then, up until September 2024, in the United States, Twitter has dropped, usage has dropped whatever that 100 is to about 82. And in UK, from 100 to below 70 September. That's not October. That's not the exodus of the last little. That thing is.
Well, I mean,
They are.
I had somebody. I posted a thing on the Facebook the other day how I said I'm migrating over. Somebody says, well, if you leave, you're not. I'm like, I never said I was leaving. I said I'm migrating. We're moving on to a new platform. I haven't left Twitter. I'm not leaving it anytime soon. But it's become a cesspool of hatred and ignorance. And I just don't need to swim in that cesspool anymore. That's all it is.
Yep,
and I have a number of folks who said, yeah, I left, closed my account. So many people I've talked to lately who says, yeah, I just can't take the bitterness, the hatred, the bots. It's just a constant barrage of putrid sewage that's being thrown upon us, and we're expected to drink it up. And it's just, no, not happening. Not happening. And people are leaving in droves because they're just tired of it.
Yeah. Yes. So we're not leaving Twitter. It's the same thing. But it's probably, as more people find us on Blue Sky and come join us there, it's probably going to be, Twitter's probably going to start becoming more of a communication out only medium, but not one where we are going to be doing much engaging like this. So we're not going to stop overnight, clearly, because there's a transition period, time for people to find us and go back and forth. And we're not leaving it because there are certain resources. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that will stay there to the bitter end, and there's a lot of resources that are still there that if you can't find them, or stragglers that do not want to learn another platform and all that kind of stuff. So we don't want to lose access to them. But yes, gradually with time, you will see our activity increasing on Blue Sky. And I hear recently, because we don't have a presence there, but that Instagram is actually pretty decent as well. With regard to that type of platform, we might set up something there.
It's not an easy thing to. It's not easy to do, and I'm in the process. But you have to have a professional Instagram account to begin with. And I'm looking at it. There isn't a 12-step process to stream on Instagram. It's
oh my god,
work.
Yeah. Maybe not to stream directly, but at least post the shows after or something. But we might look at It might.
I mean, our
But
home is still going to be
the
here
blue
on
sky,
YouTube. Our home will still be here on YouTube, but
yes,
we're trying to get the program out to as many people as possible. And right now, when we put the link on Blue Sky, you just click on it and it will air the show, but it's the YouTube feed. So you can go direct to YouTube or you can watch the YouTube feed on Blue Sky. Either way, we still get the viewer numbers, which is what we need because it helps pay us, which is also what we need, money.
exactly. So there you go, kids and cubs. But yes, the Beaver Lodge, now there is now a Blue Sky Lodge, kids and cubs, and your Queen Beaver has arrived. So there you go. Come one, come all, gather round. We will have a feast. No sardines, no crudités. This queen don't do that. If you want that, you need to go see that Roman trailer lady. But we haven't heard a lot about lately, eh?
Which one? Whom? I'm sorry?
Romano cheese?
Oh, Romano Del Duo?
Yeah. Dilaudid?
Dilaudid? Yeah.
Yeah. She kind of
No, I haven't heard
vanished.
much from her lately, but
Yeah. I'm sure she's still around doing stuff,
present.
but yeah, but
Yeah, I think she was asking for soldiers to do something for her recently. So,
oh, okay.
yeah.
There you go. That just popped in my mind. All right, kids and cubs. So please, yes, if you could, like I said, those are all the ways, and we are now. So now with 27.2% more pizzazz. So there we go. Come and find us there.
I do notice that on Blue Sky, the porn bots, the hate bots, the people telling you that you're scum just for existing, not there. Now they may show up eventually, but people are saying, no, we're just going to block the hell out of them right from the get-go.
Yes.
And I think Blue Sky is doing what they can to prevent bots.
Yeah. Now, if they run it well, like this, they can literally overtake Twitter pretty darn quickly right now because the mood is out there.
Oh, yeah.
But remember that Blue Sky is run by another billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Billionaires are not necessarily our friends.
No. Well, there's also Threads, which is, an alternative microblogging site.
Yes, as well. All right, kids and cubs. I believe that's it for that, because democracy is something that you do. If you live in Nova Scotia, you have a provincial election going on that will be held on the 26th of November. So 13, please research your candidates and find out who's running, find out what the platforms are. If there's a candidate that you like, then please do call, door knock, do all that type of stuff to help. And if you would like also to help with some polling work, then contact Elections Nova Scotia, because maybe they need some more workers and that. And it's always a wonderful experience. According to Nova Scotia, the information about the advanced polls are now up, because we were looking for you. But anywhere in Nova Scotia, and there is an e-ballot for early voting available Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can do that. And let's see, there is also the returning poll. So at any returning office, Monday to Saturday, once an election is called, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday and Friday before Election Day, and 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sorry, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Thursday and Friday before Election Day, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. that will be open. And then there are more things like a community poll and all of that kind of stuff as well, that I'm not exactly sure that's also available. So please look up all the different ways that you can vote early if you know you're going to be away. So you can do that. Talk to your friends about voting. Show that you're excited about voting. Ask people if they've planned their vote. Keep talking about it. It's like, you're voting? Oh, well, why not? But, you got to come vote. Come on. We'll make a day out of it. Go have some lunch after or something. But friends, don't let friends do democracy alone. Also, if you are in the riding in British Columbia of Cloverdale Langley, then you have a by-election now coming up in December. So that's just been announced. So there too, research your candidates into all of that. I did manage, I was looking for it yesterday and couldn't find it, but I found it yesterday evening on the 338 site. And based on projections, and I know that people are not okay with polling, but my suspicion was correct, that because that this was a district that went very solidly for the BC Conservatives just a month ago, or just under a month ago, that federally the polling might be indicating similar, and right now it is indicating that it looks like that the Conservatives are in the lead right now to take this seat. So there will be some work needed to be done by the Liberals if they would like to win it, or the NDP. But just right now, if that election result comes in, it's like, oh no, Liberals lose another one. Right now, polling is indicating that that would indeed be the case, and not by a little as well. So we'll see what happens. But that one, like I said, given the provincial results, that I would have been surprised if things would be indicating anything else, to be totally honest, because it's the same people voting, right? So there you go. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us?
Yeah. Try and breathe through the day. By breathe through the day, I mean when your anxiety is peaking, because mine has been over the last few days, along with my depression because of the stomach issues that I've been having. I need to breathe thoughtfully and mindfully to get through it. So if you are suffering, breathe thoughtfully and mindfully, and it will bring you calm, because it releases GABA. You can research what GABA is. There's a great article on Wikipedia about it. Or is it Wicca or Wicca? Anyway, it's available for you to read. And we'll tell you how you can help calm yourself when you're feeling freaked out. It's difficult to always remember that when you're feeling freaked out, but breathing with purpose will help you. So breathe with purpose today.
All right. Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock.
Let me just bring that up here. It should be right. Oh, here we are. There we go.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
I have two Easter eggs. I got one quick one that I don't know if you've seen this, but I think you're going to love it when I show it to you. I'll just blow it up and share it on the screen. So the first tweet is from Pierre Poilievre, and it was about Remembrance Day. Here's his first response that you want to see. What an absolute disgrace that so many woke activists and authorities use Remembrance Day to push their divisive and radical causes, denigrating our history and the brave military members who sacrifice for it. We're a proud country with a proud history, and everyone who lives here should be grateful to call Canada home. Well, his response from Charlie Angus, who has no more fucks left to give. Listen, asshat. Your lies about Remembrance Day were juvenile. Don't double down. How about you just shut it for 24 hours? Show some respect for people who take November 11th seriously. By the way, let us know when you have passed a security clearance for the good of the country. I'm like, shots fired. Charlie Angus is on his way out. And
this guy's saying again. Yeah, this guy's complaining about other people divisive when he was the one that was trying to make sure that we all hate each other. Remember, it's by spreading the lie that prayer had somehow been banned by liberals.
Exactly.
And progressives and those lefty woke people. You are the problem. You are the thing that you say you loathe. Pardon?
Well, and he was regurgitating a story from the Epoch Times.
Yes, which has its own big scandal going on right now as well, which we won't get into because we're going to end the show. But
yeah, that would be a whole different show. So I have one quick. I have
we're
a video
going to add an
for
extra
you.
15 minutes.
Yeah, there's a video for you from our friend Joanne, aka IronLearn16, one of the best people in the country. It's not a short video. It's 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes, but it's worth your time. Trust me on this. If you haven't seen it, you'll thank me later.
Guys, today didn't go the way a normal day at Metro Prep goes. I walked in there and I thought I was going to sit down, my History 10 class, teach about the Cold War, teach about the FLQ crisis, maybe about the creation of the social safety net in Canada, and I was met with a 15-year-old walking up to me asking me how it's possible that a guy like Nick Fuentes is allowed to get on any social media platform and say things like, "Your body, my choice forever. Women lose, men win." Have you ever looked a 15-year-old in the eye and tried to answer how the adults in this world have allowed that to happen? How am I supposed to regulate, let's say, the inclinations of teenagers when they're looking at adults who aren't regulating this? Are you okay? Because I'm trying to do a job in there, and 15-year-olds right now are smarter, are better, are more empathetic than what's going on in parts of the United States. My students also realize that Nicky isn't the problem. He's just a symptom. And let's be honest, the internet really did handle him well. But after he made that post, they saw this tidal wave of comments of support for what he actually said. This tidal wave of little anonymous, tiny little boys making statements of support, saying they can do whatever they want to women. They can pick whoever they want to parent or to mother their kids because they have control, because they have the rights, and women no longer do. Some of my kids used to talk about me taking them to States. Want to know what they say now? What are we doing? We talk about censorship and free speech. I talk about it very openly. My students know my stance on free speech. I am an adamant supporter. Threats are not free speech. They shouldn't be protected as such. What are you doing? When an individual threatens a group of people on the internet, the police should show up at their door the very next day and it should be publicized everywhere. There was some woman that went up to Nicky's door. Do I advocate that? Absolutely not. But you know who should have knocked on his door? Police. Police should have knocked on his door. Because the kind of comments he's making, it's not about freedom of speech and political banter. This is violence. He is encouraging, he is emboldening violence. And the more that government officials, especially on his little red hat wearing brigade, doesn't say that this is unacceptable, that this is disgusting, they are allowing it to grow. And when the actual authors of the very manuals that have stipulated how they're going to put women back in their place so they can grow a very strong American population again, when they choose those people to be a part of the government, you are choosing to stand beside these men. How dare you? How dare you make me explain how this has happened? How good people have allowed this disgusting onslaught to happen against women in the United States of America. Should I send my 15-year-olds down to talk to some of your governors? To talk about what violence looks like? To talk about how silence only grows this kind of depravity. When you don't stand against it, you allow it to fester. Shall I send them down? Because they're pretty well educated. And they're pretty confused at your line of reasoning where you just allow it to happen. And you stand behind the guise of free speech like the cowards you are. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. They're going to grow up to be better people than we ever were. Because even though I didn't do this, somehow I feel like I allowed it. I'm not doing enough. Well, don't think I'm done. And don't think you haven't reinvigorated every bone in my body to ensure that and that mentality and that depravity and that violence against women in any form is going to continue. Because I do promise you this, there's way more me than there are of you. And I think your time, well, it's just about up.
That is the angriest I've ever seen Joanne. And I understand why. And I love what she said. She's pissed. And if anything, she's going to be fighting back harder than ever before. And I stand shoulder to shoulder with her.
Yep.
Because when he makes a statement like that, your body, my choice forever, you're talking about my sisters, my partner, my mother, my aunts, my colleagues, my friends. You think you can say something like that? Sure, you've got free speech. You can say it. You're an American citizen. It's a constitutionally protected right. But the thing is, your speech, which may be free, is not free from consequences. And he was doxxed and immediately went into hiding. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't advocate for that. But he effed around. Now he's finding out. The consequences are raining down upon him, and he brought them on himself. And what these little boys fail to understand is that those of us who are progressive, left-leaning centrist, we know how to fight too. And that's all I got to say. Are you there, sir? I wasn't sure if you were frozen or not. I think there's a big delay. All right, we'll see you.